Hi folks, and welcome back to Emerging Strategies, Creativity and Innovation at Work. In the last video we have explored three different theories regarding the strategy formation process within organization. The last of the theory we have examined is strategic venturing and argues that within organization there are at least three levels of management. You have operational management, middle management and senior management. The theory argues that most of the time the intuition to improve the company's product or services happens at the operational level, because operating managers that are in contact with the customer are able to spot new ways to create value for their customer. But it's only when the senior management is able to understand and to frame that opportunity that eventually that intuition turns into a new strategic venture. And now we are finally ready to start to understand the main differences between two different views on the strategy formation process within organizations. One theory argues that the strategy formation process is deliberate. And we have another theory that actually argues that the strategy formation process is emerging. Now, let's get started with the first theory that argues that strategy forms deliberately within an organization. What does this mean? It means that strategies are the realization of explicit intentions. This means that basically within an organization there is a big divide, a big dichotomy between the people that create the strategy, that formulate the strategy, and the people that execute, that implement the strategies. Basically, there is a divide between the people within an organization responsible for thinking and the other side of the organization which is responsible for doing. And because of this deep separation between people within an organization that think and people that do, the emphasis of this theory is on control. The people that create the strategy have to control that the people that implement the strategy are doing the work correctly. Why then? Why control? The control is essential because the people actually that execute the strategy most probably don't understand the strategy. They have to merely implement it. So basically, there is a one-way arrow from people that create the strategy and people that execute the strategy. There is an important observation that we can make here. While the essence of this understanding of the strategy formulation process is based on control, which can be described as the single-pointed arrow going from the strategy formulators to the strategy implementers. Many times within an organization, there is an informal feedback loop that actually goes the other way around, from the implementers to the strategy formulators. And this can be described with the strategic venturing theory, which argues that many times within organization there are three different types of management. We have operational management, middle management, and senior management. My bet is that strategy implementers are between the operational management, people that are in contact with the customer, and by observing the customer, they perceive new way to create value for the customer. But it's only when this intuition reaches the senior management that can be transformed in new opportunity for growth for the company. So even in this understanding of the strategy formation process as deliberate, there is a kind of informal feedback loop from the implementers to the formulators that enable in a way formulators to continuously formulate better and more relevant strategies that are adaptive to the environment. A second and also very important theory regarding the strategy formation process argues that strategy emerges within organization, which means that strategy are not the realization of explicit intention. So basically we lose the dichotomy between strategy formulators and strategy implementers. And actually, this theory argues that strategy emerges because people within an organization are allowed to experiment different ways to create value for the customer. So what is the main difference? The main difference is that anybody within an organization is able to think and experiment different new ways to serve the customer. So this dichotomy between strategy formulators and strategy implementers is completely lost. And the process goes this way. Somebody has an intuition. Doesn't matter which level of management, can be at operational level, middle management or senior management, has an intuition. After having an intuition, it makes an experiment. And it could be also a very cheap experiment. The experiment generates a feedback loop. And obviously, if it is a positive feedback, then it's something that creates a pattern. And is the pattern formulation process that eventually generate strategies. If you remember, we have seen something similar when we have described the evolutionary approach to strategy, which argues that the management is no longer in control of the strategy of the organization, therefore its future, but actually the pattern within an organization organizes itself, and the organization updates itself and adapts its strategy to the environment. Let me explain this using a very simple analogy. Most of us own mobile phones and tablets, and many times we receive a message saying the application has been automatically updated. This is exactly what happens in emerging strategies. The application, in this case the strategy, automatically update themselves to stay relevant with the context in which companies operate. Now, if we are losing the control, if managers are no longer in control of the destiny of an organization, what is that keep going the organization and remain relevant with the environment? And here, ladies and gentlemen, is the essence of emerging strategy. The essence is not longer control, but is learning, which happens at the different level of the organization. In closing this class, let me make some important observation and interesting questions. In the understanding of the strategy formation process as deliberate, there is a very important point in time that shift the work of senior management. The senior management create their strategy, and only when the strategy is fully formed, they stop thinking and they switch into control mode. They control that the strategy implementers are doing their work right. So, in other words, the thinking must stop before the action starts taking place. In the other understanding of strategy as an emerging process, the thinking doesn't stop when the doing starts, but actually thinking and doing are constantly at work, and they generate this feedback loop of learning. And obviously this observation raises some important questions. What is thinking and what is doing? But also how thinking and doing are connected, and how does strategic learning happen within organizations? Stay tuned.